Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm asking you to unmute, Mary.
How's that?
Okay, we can hear you now.
Okay, great. How is everybody?
Fine.
Good. So Aline, it looks like we have Lucia, Mary, and Charles, as well as you and me. So that's our entire council. You can go ahead and start the meeting whenever you want.
Okay, so sorry you can't see me. I'm gonna try to get on my phone in a sec. We'll go ahead and start the Oceano Advisory Council meeting for July 16th. And we'll do the roll call. Councilmember Castellanovo.
Here.
Councilmember Lucy.
Here.
Councilmember Rapogo.
Here.
Councilmember Barney.
He's muted.
He's muted.
But
I see him.
Asking him to unmute.
I'm here.
So, and then myself, so I think we're all here. Next, I'd like to do the flag salute. Does anyone want to start it? Charles?
Ready, go. I pledge allegiance
Yes.
to the flag
To
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
one night under God.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And justice.
Thank you.
Going down the list here, we have the guest reports. We have, I don't think we have county planning. Cody.
Excuse me, Aline. Oh, we've got April here. I'm going to let her in. And did you want to do public comment for items not on the agenda?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Before we get into guest reports.
Yeah, okay. Public comments for not on the agenda. Is anyone here with a public comment not on the agenda?
So if you want to give public comment, I believe you can raise your hand. Seeing any raised hands. This is the first time using our brand new account with the Zoom. So just to make sure there's not some issue with the raise hand feature, I'm going to go ahead and unmute. I think this is Julie Tacker.
Cynthia?
Yeah.
If there's a feature there.
Okay, thank you. Are you able to use the raise hand feature on the phone? I think it's
on the phone. I'll just use *6 to get in.
*6. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Cynthia, I just had a quick question.
Yeah.
Is there a feature as you get familiar that will show all the participants on the screen? Because my screen's just showing the person who's speaking.
Gallery view. You have to click on gallery view. On the top right of your screen, there should be a gallery view button. Gallery view.
Okay, I'll look for it then. Or Cynthia or me?
On your screen.
You on your screen, Mary, on your screen.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I guess we don't have any
public comment. Yeah, you made it.
Yay!
Yeah.
All right.
Aline, I see you in 2 places now. Are you with us?
Yes, but do you see me? I shut my computer.
Don't see you, no. But your name's on the screen in 2 places. Oh, now it's just 1.
Okay, so still don't see me. Okay.
It doesn't look anything like you.
Uh,
Oh, there
okay.
you are. We see you now.
Okay. So then, since we have no public comment, next on our list is the guest reports, and I don't think we have Cody here.
Oh, I apologize. I left that on the agenda from last time. He's no longer with us.
Okay. So is in the code enforcement was from last time also, I remember that. Commander Manueli?
I also don't see him on.
So then going further on the list is next, we have the presentations with Steve Kahn with a West Front Street revitalization project. And I did see him earlier.
I'm asking him to unmute right now.
I am muted. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Great. I do a lot of these meetings, so I've actually started to finally get used to them. It takes a little while, especially with all the different platforms.
Mr. Khan, do you have anything to present? I can let you share your screen if you
Yeah,
want.
yeah, that'd be great. Let me, I'll do it in just 1 minute. So as you said, my name is Steve Kahn. I am an engineer with Canon Engineering. I'm retired from the city of Santa Maria. I was a public works director there, and I was a public works director for Tascadero and also for Guadalupe. But anyway, now I'm just running projects for Canon. And so the county and SLOCOG has hired us to do an ATP grant for the West Front Street improvements. So we're busy working on that. The deadline for the submittal to the state of California is September 15th. We are going to apply to finish all the plans, specs, and estimates and apply for construction of phase 1. Now, I've looked at your past minutes and things that you've been doing. I think you probably know quite a bit about this project. Would that be correct? I mean,
We could use a refresher.
Okay. Yeah, no, I plan to give you a refresher. I just want to make sure that this is a two-way conversation because I've just gotten into this project over the last 3 weeks and I'm starting to get to know it, but I want to make sure that I'm not stepping on any toes and realize that you know more about this project probably than I do. So, and any input you want to give me, you know, what's supposed to be in the project, what's not supposed to be in the project, I'd love to hear it. I'm trying to gain as much information as I can. So now let's go ahead and share the screen. And that. Here. Did you allow me to share the screen?
I think I did. Oh, yeah.
Okay, then I think I'll be able to get it right here. Can you see that?
Yes.
Perfect.
I can.
Okay. Gonna move this over so I can. There we go. Good. All right, it's working. All right, so these are the plans. I'm going to kind of slowly go through them of what we plan to apply for. So what the ultimate goal is to have continuous curb gutter and sidewalk throughout West Front Street from 19th Street all the way over to 4th Street. That's kind of the overall arching goal. So wherever there's missing sidewalk through here, it's not correct width or it's not the correct ADA design, then we would be replacing it. We also plan on putting in streetlights along the east side of West Front Street in order to light the corridor better. But because of this grant, the ultimate goal is improving mobility for non-vehicular traffic. I mean, it's not to deny vehicular traffic, but it's really to make it multimodal. So whether you're walking, riding a bike, in a wheelchair, or in a car, we want to make the circulation good for you. So one of the first areas I've noticed is what the talk is the priority for phase 1 is not to put a sidewalk here, but to do a demonstration project right here by your flagpole in order to see if it works here to have a little parklet here and how it circulates. Is that correct in your understanding?
Yes.
Yeah. And then we want to make sure that the driveway here works for the burger place, Sylvester's. We go down the street, we're looking at putting a knuckle right here at 15th and Ocean Street. Is this your understanding?
Yes.
So we'd be applying for that. And then we're also looking here at Pastor Robles and 13th Street at straightening out the alignment. What you're doing here with these bulb outs is you're making it a shorter distance for a pedestrian to cross the travel way on each side and defining the entrance onto West Front Street by getting the vehicles to line up at 90 degrees instead of at an angle.
Mhm.
Then we continue lighting and everything else all the way to 4th Street. There are other improvements that are planned for, like on phase 3, it's pretty extensive of what you wanted to do. You wanted to really work with Caltrans to widen the road, to put infiltration improvements on the west side, and make bike lanes on the west side. But this is not the project we're applying for. I'm just telling you what the ultimate improvements were. So also I want to share with you that I believe you had at your last meeting is a fact sheet from Caltrans. They're going to be repaving West Front Street, also Route 1, all the way from Arroyo Grande, Garcia Way, through here and back through here and all the way into Pismo Beach past the Butterflies. This section right in here is a buffered bike lane they plan to put in, but that's before the bridge right there at your railroad tracks. So what they plan to do is overlay 2/10 of an inch of rubberized hot asphalt mix. And the advantage to rubberized asphalt for an urban area like yours is it's quieter. It rides softer and the rubber absorbs the noise and it's not as loud. It also wears better because it's a little more flexible when the asphalt's settled. They're planning to do this project in the fall of 22 and the fall and winter of 23. So I'm working with them to try to make sure if we get this funding, we do it in conjunction with that so that we come out with one project that's pretty nice by the time we're done. So that was really my presentation. I just wanted to give you an update that we're applying for the ATP grant. I'm working with Gennaro Diaz. He said to say hi. I'm working with him, and I'm also working with Stephen Hana Malakai from SLOCOG. So those are my two contacts, and I'm producing this for you. I also want to do a presentation before the the Oceano Beach Community Association. I'll also be doing a presentation before the CSD, Community Services District. I just talked to Will Clemens today. So anyway, I would ask for any input or anything from this group on the project. Do you have anything to add that I need to know on this thing?
Maybe we should go down the list. Councilmember Castellanovo, do you have any comments or questions?
Well, I wonder, do you have any, I know the answer already, but it's kind of a rhetoric question. We really need a crosswalk on Highway 1 that connects our downtown with the beach. So is there any possibility, any chance to look at that during this grant application?
Let me tell you what I know about a crosswalk, because I did talk to Caltrans yesterday about that.
Good.
Share my screen here. I'm gonna be a fancy tech guy without blowing it here. There we go.
Oh my God,
right.
you read Cal Coast News.
Yeah, yes, I do. That must be Julie Tacker.
No, it's Mary Lucy.
Okay. Yeah. So here we are in your beautiful city.
Beautiful, yes.
So what Caltrans is looking at, and there's no promises, but with their CAP-M project that I just told you about, the repaving of the road surface, they're talking about putting a crosswalk right here at 19th and State Route 1.
19, let me look. Can you zoom in
Great.
a little bit?
Yes, I can.
Oh, so that's where the,
That's
Oh,
wonderful.
my
That's-
God.
That's where, and there's no promises. They're studying it now, but
Wow.
quality of life issue. That's really wonderful if you can pull that off.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Yep. So right there.
Yeah.
Yes.
What would it take, Steve? Why do you say it's not a promise? What would it take?
Well, what Caltrans does, and I'm sure you've heard this as they've done presentations before you, they do a warrant analysis. They take a look at the accident history, they take a look at the speed of the vehicles, they take a look at how many pedestrians you have crossing, they look at their statistical data, and they determine whether a crosswalk is warranted there or not. Obviously, having been in this business for a long time, they're very cautious on putting crosswalks in, because what happens with crosswalks at times, it gives your pedestrian a false sense of security, that there's some sort of wall there against them and the vehicles. And nowadays, you get these young kids that are sitting there staring at their cell phone, walking across the street, and whammo. So we're trying to avoid that. Anyway, Caltrans said they're looking at it. It sounds promising. So I would think when they do the paving, my hope is they put one in for you.
So, but they're gonna do the study. That's what they're at least they're gonna.
They're doing a warrant analysis right now. That's correct.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. That's promising. Thank you.
Yes.
That's way further than a study.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay,
Aileen, I
moving.
have some questions when you're ready.
Yeah, moving along. Councilmember Lucy.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation. I really appreciate it. There's a couple areas is I'd like to know how your storm runoff plan ties into the 13th Street storm runoff. Because I know you're fully aware and I don't have to tell you about that. Secondly is that if you could touch on parking, because we do have the melodrama there. So we have an abundance of parking going on, and right now the majority of them park across the street, you know.
Right.
And so, and then this one's the big one, is that what's the chances of getting the overhanging wires put under the ground? Because you know, it's just, they're just hideous. I don't want to say any more than that, you know.
So a couple questions for you. Those are a lot of questions, but anyway, power lines. So are you talking about PG&E power lines?
Yes, PG&E, Charter, Spectrum. You can't even imagine what happens on my alley alone. You know,
Okay,
I have
talking about on West Front Street?
Box there, you know, so I've actually had them hang tents from the wires so they could take a nap while they're up there. And so there's a lot of wires, you know, so there's internet wires.
Are those on you talking about ones on West Front Street?
I'm talking about the ones on Front Street, yes.
Okay.
Is it possible to, you know, of course I'd love to ask for the moon, but that's not what we're talking about here.
No.
So
let me ask you a couple questions. What happens with PG&E is you have something called Rural 20A money.
Yes.
What, has you guys ever heard of that?
No.
I haven't.
Okay, so agencies get Rural 20A money from PG&E. And what it is actually don't give agencies money. They have a set-aside account that they put money away for each agency because they're required to by the California Public Utilities Commission. Then agencies can set a resolution at the Board of Supervisors, and they can distinguish a Rural 20A money, and that Rural 20A money is used for undergrounding utilities. So why don't I check into for you, what is the status of your Rural 20A money with PG&E?
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, because that was not part of this project, but I've ran Rural 20A projects before, and they take time, but they are successful, and they do underground those ugly, unsightly power lines. And the other thing they do, power lines that are above ground are fairly unreliable. A big storm can come,
Right.
A tree can fall on them, and then your power goes out. A vehicle can hit a power pole, and it can knock the power off. So once you've undergrounded, it's much more reliable. and it's not as unsightly.
Thank you so much.
So your next question was on parking.
Yes.
So with this project here, there is no plans on changing your parking. I do know that when the melodrama is going, you have a lot of people that park on the west side of Front Street and walk across the road to come to the melodrama.
Yes.
And I would assume you want that to continue. Is that correct?
Oh, most definitely. But, I think that they would park more on the highway if there was designated, some kind of parking that encourages people to park there. That way we don't have as many people crossing the highway. The melodrama did their absolute best with what they had, that space, and I applaud them for factoring in as much parking as they were able to do. But if we're looking at putting a knuckle on 15th and 13th, which would be right behind the melodrama, maybe we could consider some parking, and I don't know how that works in your plans, and I don't know if that's, too much to ask for, but at least I put it out there.
All right, so increase parking.
The main thing is to try to cut down your foot traffic across Highway 1.
Okay, cut down foot traffic. I'm writing these down. Across Highway 1. I do know that one of the phases for the West Front Street Revitalization Project, they're talking about putting attractive fence on the west side of State Route 1. And I think the reason for that is to control the people that are parking on all of that produce company property and scattered around. So you would line up and you'd have to park parallel on the west side of the road.
Yeah.
I do know what the plans, there's no plan to put a knuckle here at 13th in Paso, but there is a plan to put a knuckle here at 15th and Ocean.
Right.
And I believe, let me just go back to the plans here. I believe there were plans in one of these phases of increasing parking. Out there. Let me ask you a question before I get too far away here. Is the group in favor of this improvement here at 17th and Beach, where Beach doesn't go through anymore? You have an increased size of your little park, and then everybody uses 17th to give access to West Front Street.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I am.
Yeah, no, we've all pretty much
I have a
supported.
question about that.
Sure.
Is this Linda Austin's property we're talking about?
I'm sorry, I don't know that. I think you might be thinking
Isn't this
of
her
this.
park? Isn't this the
No,
park?
but this project incorporates Triangle Park.
Okay, so the Triangle Park that you're referring to, Steve,
Yes,
so that's private property. I don't know if you know that.
I did not know. That's right where the flag is?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Who would want to own that?
Well, Linda Austin, who
Yes.
is a very important community member and
Okay.
president of the OCSD, she owns that property.
Got it?
So in terms of if you're looking at public improvements to that property,
Yes,
the issues, I
right.
think,
I'm glad you let me know this.
and it might also be a time to approach Linda Austin to. At one point, she had, I don't know the details, but had basically de facto deeded that to the community.
Okay,
And then she revoked that, and it's now, not that she ever, I think, officially gave up the property,
great.
but de facto it was. So that's something you need to be aware of, I think.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I wonder how she ever ended up owning that little triangular piece there.
It was her grandfather's, and there was actually a lot of other property around it. The
Yeah.
main thing is that the flag always has a home.
Yeah,
And that's really kind of, I mean, because it takes a lot of effort to keep that little tiny triangle clean, you know.
right.
And so, you know, and constantly planting flowers, but you know, mainly it was preserved so the flag would always have a home.
Yeah. And I walked the project a couple times and I thought it was a nice little park. I mean, I really liked it. I walked by, I sat down at the little bench there for a little bit and just kind of took it all in. It was nice.
Okay. So
Yeah.
moving along.
Moving
Can we
along,
move
got it.
along here? Count.
Stormwater. I didn't understand the question on stormwater.
Our storm runoff, Highway 1 is our storm system.
Yes,
And so you've had to have built storm runoff into your plan because it's state requirement.
absolutely.
And so I wanted to know, one, is it going to have a beneficial impact? And what were your just quick in a nutshell, your plans for storm runoff?
Well, first of all, there was just a project that was installed right here, I believe at 13th, right? In
Correct.
Paso, a new storm drain. So that will definitely help the water on State Route 1. Also, as a requirement, when you start putting in impervious services, the Regional Water Quality Board is going to require what's called post-construction requirements.
Yes.
So we're looking at installing post-construction requirements, which what they do is you have a bioretention swale that would absorb the water and help percolate it into the ground.
Great.
So that's probably what we would have to do that as part of the project because it's required by the state of California and the regional board. I do know also that there by the elementary school, there's talk of doing a infiltration project right in here. A big infiltrator to take the water in here and put it back into the ground.
Yes, that's planned.
Yeah.
A low impact development project.
Right. So that's your question. Any other questions?
Thank you. Councilmember Repogel, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, so you have applied or you're going to apply for a grant on this?
Yeah, September 15th is the deadline. We're working on the application right now.
Who is the grant going to come from?
It's going to come from the state of California. It's the Active Transportation Program. It's been around for a while. It's trying to encourage multimodal transportation, like I said at the beginning, bikes, peds, handicapped, and vehicles. The recently passed State Bill 1 that had an increase in gas tax of 12% for gasoline. There's also a couple fees in it. Portion of that money is used to fund the Active Transportation Program. So the funding is coming from the state of California.
Okay, so you apply in September, and when are the grant awards made?
Oh, it takes a while. I think that the recommendations come out in like January and they're approved by the board in like March or something like that. And then we probably would finish design and probably would not be built till the summer of 2022, which is right when Caltrans will be paving your road. So somewhere in the summer of 22, I would imagine if this all came about, it would happen.
Now, would it help to have a letter of recommendation from this council approving the
Yes.
project? So is that what you're looking for from us today?
We would love to have that, yes. A letter of support from your council, we would add to our package.
Okay, and by when would you need that?
In the next month.
Okay, well, I got to say personally, I think this is really exciting. I had no idea that any funding was being attempted to be procured to actually make any of this revitalization come to life, and I'm really happy to see it. Thank you.
Good. Well, so the SLOCOG board, which is made up of your supervisors and city council members, supported this project. They actually put additional funding into it, SLOCOG did, of a couple $100,000. And then county staff, Genera, and also Stephen with SLOCOG have both been great in working on this. So the county is all behind this project. They're the ones that really are pushing it.
Thank you. Moving along, Councilmember Varney, do you have any more questions or comments?
Just a couple. So is SLOCOG the lead agency?
Well, the county is the lead agency, the County of San Luis Obispo. SLOCOG has come up with the money, and my contract is actually with SLOCOG.
Okay.
So SLOCOG's paying for it, but the county is the one that is going to apply for the money and build the project.
Okay. And the whole curb gutter sidewalk, I'm confused. Are we talking about east and west sides of PCH, or this
Just
is the
east side, just east side.
just the east side project? So
Yes,
west
sir.
side isn't going to be really touched. I mean,
No, the
it's
west
not
side, the only plans on west side is some bioretention facilities, which I talked about, and also maybe a little fence, but there's no plans on sidewalk on the west side.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, it looks like that's about it, Steve. It looks
right.
like everybody.
I really appreciate your time. Let me just tell you, if you have, why don't I who should I send an email to so that you can forward me a letter of support if you have one, or if you have any additional questions?
You can send an email to Oceano Advisory Council at gmail.com.
Perfect. I have that email.
Thank you so much.
All right,
We're
my pleasure.
excited.
Thank
We're
you.
My
very
pleasure.
excited.
Hey, Lena, are
Thank
you
you.
gonna take public comment?
I will now put, is there any public comment on this topic, revitalization of Front Street West?
I'm not seeing any raised hands here.
Okay, being that there's no public comment, we will go on to the next item, which is the review and approval of the minutes. Has everyone had time to review the minutes?
Okay, I'm going to go. Good night.
Okay.
Good
Bye.
night. Good night, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Just a point of order, Madam President.
Mhm.
Isn't this the time to consider a resolution, or do we need to formally draft that up and notice it? We can't take action on it in this meeting?
A motion to send the letter of support, is that what
Right,
you're talking about?
right.
I think we should do that.
Yes, and so, I mean, if that's, I'm not sure procedurally if we can do that right now. I'm assuming that we can, and it's a noticed item on the agenda.
Yeah.
So I would move that the Oceano Advisory Council develop a letter of support for the West Front Street revitalization project. And I guess that's it for right now.
Is there a second?
I second. Yeah, go ahead.
Mary Lucy seconds. Shall we have a roll call?
I'm sorry, who seconded? I just heard Lucia.
Mary
You
Lucy,
said
Lucy?
Mary. Okay.
Do we need a roll call or should we just voice call it?
I think it's great.
Voices.
All in favor, raise your hands.
All in favor, aye.
Okay,
Great.
there we go.
Passes unanimously. I'm excited.
Let's see, who will be drafting that letter? Are you Lucia, or who's the secretary?
I'm the secretary.
You're recording secretary.
I'm the secretary. Yeah.
Okay. So will you be
But
drafting? the
honestly,
letter?
I do not have time to draft a letter right now. So if somebody else could take the lead on that, it would be great.
You want to do it together, Lucia?
Okay.
Do you like to
Okay.
write letters?
Yeah.
Why don't you do a first draft and send it to me, and then we'll collaborate.
You want me to write the first draft?
The first draft? Yeah.
No, you do.
Ladies
I mean,
first.
okay, fine. I agree. That's fine. I'll do that.
Okay.
We'll work together. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we'll make it I'd like to make it a nice, strong letter and
Yeah.
grateful. We appreciate it. And absolutely, we're totally behind it.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that kind of the spirit everybody wants?
Yeah. When should the letter be ready for? When should the letter
Well, he
be?
said the application was going in. What was the date of the application? So I
15th, September 15th.
Yeah.
We need to have it.
they need to get it in as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I agree.
So
I think
let's-
he can have that letter.
Okay.
He can have that in his pocket when he goes to other meetings. You know,
Yes.
we've already weighed in support. That'll be
Yeah.
helpful to him, I think. Okay.
We need to have it approved by next meeting. So I think we need to have it ready by next meeting, put it on the agenda for everybody to read it.
I don't think
And-
so. I
I
think
don't
we just
think we
did
have
it.
time.
We just
Oh.
did it right now.
Right
I
now?
trust
We voted on it. We're gonna
sure
send
the
the
letter
letter
will be
and
great.
yeah,
Okay.
so
Oh,
it's all
okay.
done. We just need the letter now.
We don't need to all agree on it. Oh, okay. I get it. You're right. We don't need to agree on any. I mean, the words are just, we support it, period.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay. Thank you, Lucia. You're a great letter writer. I know that. Yes, you are. I'm sure everyone's had time to review the minutes. If not, you can take a couple of seconds and review them.
No?
I
And
move
I-
approval of the minutes of the June 2020 meeting
Second.
circulated.
All those in favor?
Need a second.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, minutes have passed. Next is the new business, the letter of interest from April.
Sorry, I missed who seconded that motion.
I did.
I believe it was Mary Lucy. She's
Oh.
fast.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I read the minutes.
She's Mary Lucy again. New business items. The first one we have is letter of interest from April.
Okay, April is on the line and I'm going to go ahead and unmute her.
Heidi Ho, neighbors.
Hi, April.
Hi, April.
Hi there.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you, can't see you, but we can hear you very loud and clear.
Okay, good. I can't hear me, so I can't tell that you guys can hear it. That was the hard part.
So you have a letter of interest that was very short and precise, so maybe you could expand on it.
You know, I didn't get the letter.
There's a link to the letter in the agenda.
Okay.
It was sent out a bit ago, I think over a week. Seems like a bit ago,
Yes.
I think it was a few weeks ago.
maybe.
Couple
And it
weeks.
was very sure. It was very. I would like her to expand on it because it was very. I guess you would say succinct. It was only a couple of sentences.
Okay, I'm not sure there was no template to tell me what I should put. So
Oh.
I was trying to explain how I'm a local and, you know,
Mhm.
that this is my hometown and I have interest in being a part of this group.
Okay.
Is there any question in particular you'd like to know? I mean, I have 50 years I could tell you about. What one in particular?
Well, I just thought, first, I've met you and spoken to you a couple of times, so I know a little about you, but maybe if just like Mary Lucy didn't receive the letter, so if you could want to read the letter, you want to expand up just a little on the letter, no big.
Sure. Did you want me to read it, Mary, or do you have it up now?
Yeah, no, that'd be fine. I'm just looking through my stuff and I'm still searching for it. So if you want to read it, that would be helpful.
Okay, so dear OAC members, this letter is to stand as my letter of interest in filling the currently vacant at-large seat available on the OAC. I am a native Five Cities resident, and have lived off and on in Oceano for decades. I currently live and run my home-based business in Oceano. My history includes attending North Oceano Elementary, North O to us locals, my dad building the Octagon House across from the depot and next to the FCFA station, growing up on the dunes, attending OAC, OCSD, SSLOCSD, and other local government meetings and workshops, and even trying to bring a farmer's market to Oceano several years ago. If chosen, you are selecting a fresh voice, but one with a responsible business sense and a local's knowledge and experience of our beloved area. Thank you in advance for your consideration of my interest in being a continued part of our wonderful community.
Thanks.
Sure. So again, any part of that you'd like me to expand on, I'm happy to answer any questions, or I can talk if you want me to talk.
Well, I'm glad you have an interest in the committee.
I do.
I think you have a lot to bring to the table.
Thank you.
Even though we agree to disagree, a lot of times it still doesn't minimize the fact that you do have a lot of knowledge and it will help us maneuver through the systems.
I appreciate that, and I feel the same in that, you know, we all run across people, we get along, don't get along, but we're in a committee for the common goal, and that's my goal.
That's
What's
right.
the best for Oceano.
So thanks.
Does anybody else have any questions for April?
Did Charles leave? Oh, there he is.
He's muted.
Oh,
He's muted.
I have to unmute you, Charles.
Yeah, I didn't want to eat popcorn in front of you.
Eating cherries. Do
But
you
if
need a
prefer,
motion?
I can. I welcome April's application. I've got to know her better by really via being in meetings with her, and I like that she speaks up. And I've there's lots of times I agree with what she has to say, and other times I disagree with it. But I like that. I think she brings a fresh perspective, and is my sense is she's a hard worker. That she'll be present and be an active member, and so I'm definitely in support of her joining us.
Thank you.
Mhm.
You know the saying, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. I get a lot done.
Anybody else want to say something? Well, I just want to say that I am really supportive of anyone that wants to join our advisory council, because we need members, we need representation, and everybody should have a voice that is willing to serve our community and wants the best for Oceano. So I thank you for that, April.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Then I'd like to make a motion that we accept April's application as
Did you
a
want public
as a
comment?
member of large, correct?
Second?
And accept and accept her as a member of the advisory council.
And I think Cynthia seconded it, right? So we have I guess the roll call.
Do we
Roll
want
call.
to take public comment on this before we vote?
Oh, public comment on this item before we vote.
You can raise your hand in the app or press, I believe it's *6 on your phone. I'm not seeing any raised hands here.
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Okay, So let's have a vote. Councilmember Castellanovo,
Aye.
Councilmember Lucy,
Aye.
Councilmember Repolgo,
Yes.
Councilmember Varney,
Yes.
and President Villa. Yes.
Thank you guys very, very much. I look forward. I will figure out the video and audio on the computer for the next meeting, I promise.
Well, April,
Welcome.
I believe you you can take your seat now, if I recall the bylaws correctly. Does anyone
Correct.
recall?
Oh, I wasn't planning on that, but sure.
Okay, what sort of
Okay.
assignments does April have in terms of jobs that we need
Right?
to give
Oh, do I
assign
have
her
to
right
write that letter now?
You have to help Lucia write the letter now.
now?
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Okay, moving along. Welcome, April. We have
Thank you.
our next item is members who repeatedly violate rules of decorum and bylaws that we've been trying to get to for a bit. So I am sure that you've had time to go over the bylaws. And I guess we need to further make some recommendations on the bylaws, further elaborate on what to do when certain things happen, because we have the rules, but it doesn't seem like I was reviewing them. I think we need like accountability on the rules. Can I have input?
Yeah, I think the impetus for this is that there have been occasions at past meetings, sometimes repeatedly, when people were engaged in name calling and shouting and other violations of the rules of decorum, as well as the expectations of members. And so I think we need to be clear on what the consequences are for that. I mean, I don't know what they should be, but you get a warning, and then, you know, if you do it again, you're kicked off the council, or, you know, what are the repercussions for that, to, you know, put some guidelines in place so people know that something's going to happen if they do repeatedly violate our rules.
And how's it going to be reinforced? I mean, you know, what if it's, say, for example, one of the officers who's repeatedly interrupting and taking the liberty to mute people and stuff like that? I mean, I don't know if it's worthy even going down this road. And, you know, are you trying to alienate people, or are you trying to be inclusive of all?
Councilmember Castellanovo, do you have anything to add?
Well, I think what bothers me the most is that when we get into the one-to-one, I said this, you said that, no, I did, yes, you did. And we need to make sure that that does not happen, because that doesn't help anybody. And I think that we all should agree, and I agree, that the president should have the power to say enough. We don't want to get into the one-to-one interaction and go down and have people say what they want. They say once, they have a little time, and it's over. But the one-to-one bickering and bitching, it's very destructive. That's all for now. Thank you.
Councilmember Varney?
Well, looking on the, you know, the brighter side of this, I hope that, you know, everybody is clear on the rules of decorum, the guidelines, the hopes, the expectations for behavior. And, you know, if people are violating that, then they need to be reminded once. If they violate it again, I mean, we have consequences, and we have the capability of excusing somebody from the council if they can't conform to these basic guidelines of, civil discourse and, mutual respect. That doesn't mean you have to agree or like the person. And it might be a certain advantage to us in the sense of having these Zoom meetings where, I mean, actually, if we're all muted, then the person that's running the meeting needs to call on people, and then they get an opportunity to talk, and there isn't that opportunity for people to butt in or talk over somebody. And I mean, I think that's an issue that we have had as people get excited about something. I know I certainly can, be an interrupter myself, and I want to be a good member of the group, not do that. So I don't really have any specifics about like what are those standards. Is it 3 strikes and you're out?
But you mean 3 strikes in a meeting, or 3 strikes altogether in your life as a member of the council?
Yeah, would say like 3 strikes in a meeting.
And you're out of the meeting?
2 warnings, and then your mic's off. You're done with that meeting, at least.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And would the president have that authority?
Yes, I think the president would have that authority.
I think that having us muted until, all of us muted and only unmuted when we have to say something would help with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's like, I mean, we all have our mics off now, and we're having just cordial conversation. And the being able to do that with one another is kind of the ideal. If things get really bad, then you hit the mute all button, and everything's controlled, and then people are raising their hands because they want to talk, and they follow the guidelines when they're talking, and we work through those hot moments. Yeah.
I like that show. I like the giving the person a warning, and then if it happens a second time, then you're kicked out of that meeting, not out of the whole council, because that's kind of going overboard.
Can I interject one thought?
Mm-hmm.
I feel I'm walking in the middle of an already existing conversation. Clearly, this is built on some historical issues. But going along with what Eileen just said was, maybe the first time is a warning, and the second time is a mute, and the third time is a kicked out.
Well, if they're muted, they're not going to have a third opportunity, right?
No. That the person would control the involvement, and then if that third time when they're still overacting or not being appropriate, then at that point, look, you've been warned, you've been muted, and now you're no longer in the meeting. So it's basically a third strike.
Yeah. Mm.
Just a suggestion.
I could live with that.
Do you want to say anything, Mary Lucy?
No.
You look very serious. Okay, so do we want to add that into our bylaws?
Actually, I do want to say something. I really see it as a facilitator's obligation. And as a person who is at the end of it quite frequently, right?
Mhm.
You know, whenever there's to be a punitive action, it happens to come my way. Versus, you know, whether I'm disagreeing with Cynthia or whether I'm disagreeing with Lucia. And it seems very unfair and unequitable. You know, so, you know, I would prefer to have the facilitator be a strong facilitator during those times. Because, you know, I know why this is on the agenda. I'm not stupid. You know, I look at it and I go, well, maybe there was a serial meeting. You know, so whether you know, I'm not going to talk about punitive stuff because, you know, I'm not much into, you know, slapping hands or being punitive towards people. But I think that a strong facilitator who's not biased would be absolutely perfect. And that's one of the reasons why I was really glad to see the facilitator seat, you know, switch up.
So we all do know why this is on the agenda, and I was facilitating the meeting at which you called me a bitch into the microphone, and you and Linda Austin were shouting at me and would not stand down and be respectful. So to say that the facilitator needs to have a stronger hand is a bit disingenuous when you were ignoring the facilitator. It's a bit different now that we're on these Zoom meetings and do have the mute capability, but eventually we're going to go back to in-person meetings. And in either context, I think we need some understandings about what's going to happen if people become uncivil again.
I think we need maybe to really be more specific, unfortunately, because I agree that if we were civil people, if we all were, mea culpa, you know, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. Like, no interrupting, that's a no-no. I interrupt, I get a strike. Name calling, I get a strike. Or shouting, and shouting means reacting with a bad voice and making me feel stupid. I, for myself, would be nice.
Skills.
As for myself, I would like to say every time I disagree with somebody, I would say, I respectfully disagree. You know, the first time I heard that, I thought it was great. And somebody did it at the Coastal Commission. And it was nice. I respectfully disagree with you, and this is why, and that's it, without bad feelings. That's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
Chair Villa, I would suggest rather than amending the bylaws that we just add on to our rules of decorum, maybe a statement about what the council thinks would be the repercussions for violating the rules repeatedly.
I agree, but we have to agree what that's going to
Yes,
be.
but rather than opening up the bylaws, which could invite other changes.
I meant just the rules of decorum. That's what I meant. I don't mean the bylaws. Unfortunately, I have to agree with Lucia. In a perfect world, we wouldn't need to have everything written out and to have all these repercussions. But unfortunately, it's not that way. I try to be as respectful and unbiased as possible, even though I know we all come with our biases just from our backgrounds. We can't all expect to be thinking the same way when we're from different generations, ethnicities, and cultures. We have some little bias in us. So I do believe that it needs to be written there. And I do believe there's some people who have some personalities that are a little bit more peaceful or subtle or passive, such as mine. And maybe some are a little strong like Lucia's and Mary Lucy's, just stronger personalities. Linda, I appreciate and respect all of you. All of us are all for Oceano, and we all need to respect each other. Some of us get a little bit more excited. I've been known to interrupt. I don't know if it's a cultural thing or I just get excited sometimes, and I come across as arrogant and rude with my interruptions. But I think there's no room for cursing and just like being very, very aggressive. Some people can be very intimidating when they're aggressive because of their personalities and of their stature. So unfortunately, a big woman like Mary Lucy might be more intimidating than someone that's short and stubby like me. But just as the way it is. So I do think we need to write it in, and I do understand Mary Lucy where she feels that it's that way. Hopefully she won't. I'll try to be as unbiased as possible and as respectful to her and everybody.
I appreciate
That's all I
that.
can say.
That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah. So if we could write it in.
There's one more thing, is that the gavel is physically harmful. And when that gavel hits that board that quick and that sharp, it physically hurts. And so we have to have, people have to be conscientious of that. And I've been chair many, many years, and I was very reluctant to use it because it does hurt, so can people not use it as, a weapon, or and maybe that's too strong of words to use, but just be more aware that it physically does hurt someone's ears.
I understand. So are we in agreement to have, I really like Charles' idea there of having 2 warnings, and the second time you do it, you're out.
Of the meeting.
Yeah, the meeting, not the advisory council.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Fine.
Should we put that to a vote?
Do we want to take
Motion.
public comment on this?
Yes, public comment.
Well, I have somebody in the household who wants to do public comment. Can they do it?
Yes.
Sure.
I
And
don't see why.
if you're on the line, you can raise your hand in the app or press *6 on the phone.
I've been here for the whole meeting, but I've just been in background. So my concern is I don't think that one single individual should be the person who imposes the so-called punishment. So like if there is a problem and the body wants to say, well, we need to put this person on, quote, punishment for lack of a better word, then there needs to be some sort of consensus building on, yeah, that does need to happen, or a vote on, yeah, that does need to happen, not just at the sole discretion of the person holding the gavel. That's all I want to say. So consider that.
I don't think that's a bad concept, in the fact that if we consider peer pressure or consensus, if 3 people out of 5 feel that this is not working, then 3 people aren't, I'm not going to choose to be on a side. I'm just going to go, hey, look, this meeting isn't working for me. I'm one of the 5 people saying this. And then the majority chimes in and says, this is what happened. I agree with the majority, and I understand her point of, what if it's the one person who's in charge of making the decision? Who's our problem? How are we going to fix that?
So Charles, just to move the agenda, maybe you could consider
Um,
modifying your motion.
We do have someone who would like to comment, but they're not able to unmute themselves from the public. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute them right now.
Hi, it's Julie. Hey, in listening to you all, it appears that everyone recognizes that something happened and you're all regretful in one way or another. And simply, I don't know that you have to even go to the lengths of putting something into your policy there. I think everybody's aware, and it probably won't ever happen again because you all recognize what happened. And I think I really wish the best for you all to overcome this and move on. You've spent way too much time on it, and what's best for Oceano going forward. Put this in the past, and even if you don't put something in the policy, you've all recognized it, and it looks like you're ready to move on. So I just encourage you to move on.
Charles?
Well, thank you for those words, Julie. And I feel much like that myself. Although I think there's something to be said for having to memorializing this very simple, I think, formula that we have is that a person gets 2 chances, and if they can't calm themselves down, then they'll be muted for the meeting. And I think as we all become, I think it's incumbent upon all of us to look at those guidelines, understand them. We all know what it's like to call somebody a name. We all know what it's like to interrupt and talk over somebody. And there's also, interrupting and talking over somebody can be kind of oh, I'm just so excited about this topic and I'm sorry. Or it's like, I just want to dominate and I don't want to listen to you anymore and I'm going to talk over you. So there's nuanced things here. I think that we need to trust that the chair of the council will, use that capacity in a compassionate and reasonable manner. If I'll just speak for myself, that if I felt that the chair of the council was not using this in a fair manner, I would speak up immediately in anybody's defense. That's not what I want to be involved in. I do not want to see if our meeting is that hot that the chair needs to invoke, muting somebody. I do not want to go down the side road of having a discussion and vote on whether she was okay muting that. I mean, that would be a discussion about abuse of office, which is a much more serious thing. So taking that all into account, I would still support having some specific consequences or process for dealing with it if it happens in the meeting. And in that same spirit, acknowledge Julie's expressed hope, and I think the hope of all of us, and we all want to be as good as we can be, and hopefully we won't need to utilize those. I think it's better to have them and not use them than need them and not have them.
Councilmember Casanova?
I think that any time spent on trying to learn to speak with more kindness is very well spent. So it would serve us better as persons, and it would serve our community better. So we've been really laughed at by a lot of people in the county, and I don't feel good about it. So if we could really agree on some things that help us conduct a meeting in a more respectful, decent way, I think that's good time spent. For example, if I feel like I'm being intimidated, interrupted, or yelled at, I can say, hey, I think I feel awful right now. I think you're being this way, or I feel offended, or I feel being shouted at. Then maybe that would be like a key to alert that I'm feeling intimidated, or I'm feeling interrupted, or I'm feeling laughed at. So then maybe our facilitator and the president can take the word and maybe say, you know, that's all I'm gonna say for right now. I'm not. The problem is that also we talk too much sometimes, and then I feel like I wanna talk because somebody goes on for too long.
Yes.
So, enough for
So,
right now.
moving along, Councilmember Repogo, do you have anything to add?
Only I agree with Mr. Varney that it would be good to have something written in the rules to reference.
I also agree that we need something, and hopefully we will rarely need it. So
I agree too.
Do we need a motion to put this on, to add it to our rules of decorum?
Yeah, my suggestion would be that, how about a motion that these proposed, whatever we're going to call them, are written up, agendized for the next meeting so that everybody can see them. And it's real explicit, and we have a little time to think about it so that they're written in a fair and reasonable manner, and then we and then we would say then we have a vote on it at the August meeting.
Great, that sounds great.
Yeah.
So can I have a motion on that?
Okay, I so move that we appoint Charles to create a draft of the suggestions and to circulate that to the council members within 10 days. And everybody can take a look at them. And this isn't by way of like trying to circumvent any public meeting requirements. I don't think, since we don't have any authority, we're not governed by the Brown Act, I don't think, but this isn't the intent. It's just like for everybody to see it. If you have want to weigh in and like, I think it should be this other way or this or that, then I'll do my best to take that into account, to take everybody's concerns into account and come back with a set of those standards that, hopefully we can, if there's any further discussion, work them through at the meeting and then have a vote.
Okay.
Okay, that was a weird
Good.
motion,
Second.
but okay.
Okay. Aye.
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 I
Passes unanimously. We did public comment already, right?
Mhm.
So then we will go on to the next item, parking limits on Pier Avenue. Charles brought that to our attention. He received a ticket there for arriving, I guess, a little early. So we need to discuss that.
Okay, well, I want to start by saying aye. Yeah, I went for a beach walk about like 9:15, and when I got back, I had a $96 parking ticket. I parked on Pier Avenue. I was definitely in violation of the law. I did not realize, I did not read the sign, officer. No, it wasn't blocked by a seagull. I just didn't read it. I didn't realize that you cannot park on Pier Avenue from 2 a.m. to 9 a.m. every day. So on Pier Avenue, there are either red zones, pretty much all along the state park entrance in there. And then past that, on both sides of the street, it's this limited parking between 2 a.m. and 9 a.m. Then there's a stretch in front of the lagoon where there doesn't appear to be any parking limits, and people are parked there in their old motorhomes or stuff, and basically it's like they're living there. I had the opportunity to talk with the state park officer who ticketed me the next day, and he informed me that, well, really, he had made a mistake because I wasn't violating the parking ordinance on a day they were sweeping. It was just a regular violation. So actually, I only need to pay $71, which I'm going to pay. But, you know, I'd really like to, and I don't know if any of you know the history of this, how this time frame was put in there. But right now, and I don't think it's particularly because the beach is shut down, but to some degree, and now we're in summer, it's light by 5 a.m. and there are surfers, there are fishermen and fisherwomen, and there are beach walkers, and that little parking lot, the little Oceano, you know, beach, Pier Avenue parking lot fills up really fast. At least the parts that aren't like 3 feet of sand where you need a 4-wheel drive to park, you know, if you want to. So it's, I just see it as just a big limitation on our local people being able to utilize the beach there and park within like 3 blocks of it early in the morning. It makes no sense. And actually the officer who I talked with, he goes, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So what I would like for our advisory council to consider a motion, a proposal that we would take to the state parks, to county public works, to county roads department, to Supervisor Compton, that those hours be changed to that there's no parking on Pier Avenue in those designated zones from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. Now that would open it up for early morning folks to park there without worrying about getting these hugely expensive tickets, and provide more access really for the local, well, for anybody that wants to drive there, but right now it's pretty much locals.
Councilmember Vogel?
Yeah, I agree with Charles. I have a little information on this as well. Whereas Brad got hit with one of those tickets too. And the state parks ranger was smiling when he gave it to him, probably because he saw the Surfrider sticker on the back of the car. But I noticed last weekend that there were a bunch of campers parked on Pier Avenue. And it looked like people were, you know, camping in them on the street because the ODSV area is closed and they couldn't drive out there to camp. I mean, they had the extensions popped out on the side and, you know, the curtains pulled and everything. And so I called first I called CHP and they told me to call the sheriff about, you know, people camping on the street. And the sheriff told me that because of court rulings recently that decriminalized homelessness and people camping outdoors, they can't enforce any laws on, you know, parking your RV and camping in it. Doesn't matter if it's a tent or it's a $300,000 RV, they can't enforce any of those rules. But he did say if there was a parking restriction that was being violated, like they were parked there during hours when you're not allowed to park, then they could enforce that. They just can't enforce overnight camping laws. So I would suggest that when we take, hopefully we agree to take this proposal to the powers that be at the county, we could extend that farther down the street, farther down Pier Avenue, the parking restriction, as long as it's not impacting any residences along there. And I don't believe that it would be anybody who needs to park overnight because they don't have parking at their house. That's maybe something we should look into. But you know, I definitely agree that people need to be able to park to go to the beach as soon as it's light out, which is 5 a.m. now. And if the street sweeping is a concern, which it doesn't seem like State Parks has been doing any street sweeping, there's quite a lot of sand piled up in some places. But if that's their concern, then maybe it could be limited to, you know, no parking for street sweeping on certain days of the week at certain times whenever they
Hello?
normally do that. That's all I had.
Okay. Did you raise your hand, Mary Lucy?
Yeah, are we talking about a county road or are we talking about state
I-
park property?
I had raised my hand.
Oh, Lucia's hands up.
It's a
Oh,
county road, but State Parks leaves tickets on it.
You know,
yes, Lucia?
as far as I know, State Parks was a sweeping every day. I have it all written down. I've had a great correspondence with the State Parks. They sweep Pier Avenue every day when the ODSZRA was open. I don't know what they do now, but I have a property on this on Pier Avenue. I know that the sand is it's a tremendous hazard, and I will never get rid of sweeping. So it takes Oceano residents and Pier Avenue people 20 years to get State Parks to sweep Pier Avenue. So I do understand very well that we need the parking. I also understand that we need the sweepers. So I respectfully disagree with moving the hours of parking. I think that we can find other parking. For example, we could pursue State Park's option. Why doesn't State Park allow parking on its side? It's a whole side of Pier Avenue, the State Park side, there is no parking right now. It should be. I'm very sorry that happened to you, Charles, and it's a big issue. I wrote about it too, that we needed to take it to the county. But then not to change the hours, not to take the sweeping away. We need the county to rethink parking on Pier Avenue altogether. Thank you.
Mary Lucy?
Yeah, back to my question is that if we're talking about a county road, I think it's fine. We can put a recommendation in. But if we're talking about state property, I don't think that this committee should take that up. So that's why I want to know who's in charge of the land. Whose is it? Is it county property
Yes.
or is it state parks property?
It's a county road.
That's a county
So-
road.
Why did Mr. Varney get a ticket from state parks?
Because the state parks and the county and the sheriff work together. They help each other because, you know, the sheriff helps the state parks. They have an agreement of cooperation. That's what it is. So that when things happen on the beach, sometimes the sheriff and sometimes the county people go. And also on the other hand, the sheriff also gets help from state park. I think that's really basically my answer.
Okay.
Isn't
I
that,
would like to
Alina,
raise
what
my
we...
hand whenever necessary.
Councilmember Rapola?
Yeah, Lucia, maybe a way to address that concern would be we could ask for temporary change in the parking while the ODSVRA is closed to vehicles. We could, you know, they could put up signs that say, you know, temporary parking hours that allow parking from 5 a.m. on, and then they could go back to the normal schedule if and when it opens to vehicles again. Would that alleviate your concern?
No, it would not. Because no, a study needs to be done. First of all, how much sand? You know that when the Odyssey is open, 40 tons of sand is being swept every week from Pier Avenue and vicinity. First of all, we need to see how much is being swept now. So we need to get a schedule. We need to know exactly if they still sweep every day. So before we go to the county with our recommendations, we need to do more research. How much sand, how many times they sweep, how much sand that they remove. I don't think they need to sweep 5 hours or until maybe they just sweep at 6 o'clock. And then when they're done, we can park. We need more research. And number two, I think we should take it on with state parks. Right now, state parks are having a humongous chunk of land that does not use. They should open their parking lot to people who want to park on Pier Avenue. That would help us, so they would help the beach. They have a parking lot that is not being used. You see what I mean? So they could help out by opening it up. Done.
Anybody else want to add anything else?
Mr. Arnie has his hands up.
Hi, Elaine. I'd like to speak.
For some reason, I don't see you, but
Okay. I'm here.
there you are.
So for me, Lucia, I'll address your concern. I think that the state parks sweeping the roads they can change their schedule for when they sweep the roads so that people can park there to utilize the beach. Shutting us all out from those parking areas so it's convenient for them to sweep, that's misplaced priorities. The people have the priority for parking. They can sweep between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. Or they can set aside one morning a week when they do the sweeping and the streets are closed. And whether it's a county road or a state park road, I think is irrelevant. I do believe it is a county road. And it's weird that the state parks are writing the tickets. And by the way, the state parks gets the money from the tickets. That we're an advisory council. And as far as I'm concerned, that gives us, is a real wide mandate. Anything that impacts the residents of our community, we can raise as an item, and we can discuss it, and we can make recommendations about it. Whether it's to the state park or the United States of America or to Union Pacific when they were wanting to bring 5 big oil bomb trains through our community every week. And so this is our territory. This is our charge. And I think this is in part our responsibility. If I certainly am not opposed to gathering more information on this. And I think that the other comments about the state parks unutilized parking lot they have, all of the parking area in the front of the state park, that simply requires maybe a reconfiguration of the lining of the street to make space for cars. There's lots of accommodations that can be done there. And so I would like to, I'm happy to do more research on this and bring more details back, especially if I have guidance about the questions people want answers on.
Cynthia wants to talk. Cynthia has her hands up.
Director Villa?
No.
She's muted
Oh,
herself,
Oh, okay. I'll unmute her.
or you've muted her, somebody.
You got muted somehow.
Okay, Go ahead, Councilmember Pogo. Go
Uh,
ahead.
I think we need to get a letter, get our input sent into the powers that be as soon as possible, because we know that at least part of the ODSVRA is going to be closed to vehicles through the end of September. But if we wait until our next meeting and gather more information before we send any input, that's eating up a lot of time, and then it's going to take the county a while to do anything anyway. So the opportunity for making some meaningful change to provide for more parking for people enjoying the beach for passive uses, we've got a short window here now. We don't know how much longer it's going to be open. So my suggestion would be, excuse me, that we maybe draft an input letter and circulate it by email, and then get that sent in as soon as possible. I think Ms. Castellanova wants to say something now.
Go ahead. Go ahead,
Well-
Ms. Casanova.
Well, just a final word. If State Park, I don't mind. State Park wants to sleep at night, go ahead. I am all for parking. I've been talking about this for a long time. That's why I was angry when Coastal Blue is taking over the little piece of land. I thought we could have a nice big parking lot over there. So, but that's old stuff. So no, do not absolutely question the sweeping. The sweeping must happen. People cannot enter the driveways. There are driveways. There are people who live on Pier Avenue on that side. Okay, there are not just the ATVs. There are apartments. There are cottages. People live there. So people need to get into their driveways. And the sand obstructs people's driveways, obstructs people's mailbox, and the mail cannot drive to the mailbox. So if state parks can do the sweeping at night, welcome. By God, have it done. And I agree with drafting a letter that does not at all imperil the sweeping of Pier Avenue as it is right now. Thank you.
Okay.
I'd like to raise my hand if possible.
Excuse me?
I think April wants to say something. Is that Ms.
Go
Drury?
ahead, April. Go ahead,
Are
Ms.
you
Drury.
there?
Yes.
We can hear
Okay.
you.
Yeah, I don't get the option for you to see my hand raised, so I've just kind of been waiting. My request is maybe when we get these agendas, whoever wants to put something on the item for the agenda, kind of gives us an idea of what the heck we're going to be talking about. Because I could have looked into some of this before we even had a 20-minute discussion about something. We don't even know what we're talking about, quite honestly. So we don't know if the county has some rule or the state parks when they're allowed to do the street sweeping. So we're making all these wordings that we don't even know what we're talking about. Just a personal opinion. With that in mind, my suggestion is we find out, if I lived on that street, I don't want a street sweeper coming through at 4 or 5 in the morning. That's crazy. I live there. And people do live on that street in addition to businesses. So my suggestion is, in the future, could we have whoever wants an agenda item come with prepared information so the rest of us can know what we're talking about? I'm just asking.
We know as much as you. That's all there was on the agenda.
That's the problem.
But I think maybe we needed to, I hear what you say, that it seems to be bigger than what Mr. Varney just thought about. We need to we need to do more research, and we need to talk about it more. That's all. I don't think it's anybody's miss anything. We didn't think it would be this big.
Okay. My opinion on this is that we have a short window. I'm agreeing with Cynthia here. This, we have a short window, and the summer is going to be over before you know it. So if we take too long, the people aren't going to might be ticketed during the summer. I think for the summer, at least it should be altered that we need to get this done ASAP, and Maybe someone could do the footwork beforehand in the next couple of days, beginning of next week, and then get the letter out at ASAP.
This is also when the big wins are. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so
So maybe the compromise is that draft up a letter to state parks, to the people that I indicated, expressing a general opinion about this and the need for more parking for people. I mean, I was down there at 7 a.m. to walk this morning. The parking lot was filled. There was no place to park. You couldn't park on the street. So I basically would have had to drive back to like old Juan's Cantina and park in his parking lot, I guess. Fortunately, somebody pulled out, so I got a place. And the surf wasn't even that good, and most of the cars were surfers. So can frame the letter as both like, we're concerned about this, here's what possibly a solution, and we're interested in getting and hearing more, getting more information about it. But I can assure you, if we go in with all the information in the world, that probably we're dealing with state parks and the county government coming to some agreement about something. I mean, I'm not optimistic that they're gonna jump on this like, oh yeah, this is a really important issue. But I mean, if we don't rattle their cage, there's not going to be anything happening.
Right. I hear it's a short window, blah, blah, blah. But do you people really think it's going to happen for this summer? Forget it. Like Charles said, it's taking years for state parks to do anything, or for the county to do anything. We're just an advisory council. So we can bring it up, I agree. Not with the expectation that it's going to happen this summer, but we definitely must start addressing the parking issue. I totally agree. So we must start screaming about it. Yes. So please, I motion that Charles drafts a letter that addresses the concerns of parking on Pier Avenue. Okay?
Is there a second?
And circulate it, and we open up the can. Let's open up the can of worms. Hey.
Is there a second?
You second it.
I
Alina.
second.
Oh, you
Charles
say who seconded? Okay.
Charles,
Yes, I second it.
Okay. Aye.
put it to a vote now. Aye.
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 Mary Lucy?
I'll abstain.
Okay. So it passes
Okay.
with one abstention. All righty. Next item is the accessibility to non-English speakers.
Excuse me, I need to go to the
Oh, I'm
ladies' room.
sorry, I didn't do public comment again. Do we have any public comment on this item?
I will unmute. Number ending in 262. Do you have any comment, Ms. Tacker?
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Okay.
Well, there's a first.
Okay. Accessibility to non-English speakers is the next item.
Echo now. Is anybody else hearing that? When you
I'll do it as quickly as I can. I'm always learning more.
maybe it's just me. Yeah, so I have a concern that half of our population is Latinx, and some of those folks are more comfortable in Spanish than English, but we're not offering any way into this meeting for those people. You know, the Oceano CSD, I got them to start putting up the agenda in Spanish a year or so ago, but we don't have that for our agendas, and our website isn't set up like the OCSD website is now, where there's like a little translate toggle so you can machine translate everything into Spanish. So I was just wondering if anyone on the council has any suggestions or ability to help make any of that happen so that the advisory council meetings will be more accessible.
Is there,
Raising hand. Jeff, no?
I thought someone wanted to speak. Is there any way we could have our website like do the same thing?
The website, the way it's set up now, on Wix, I don't think that that's possible. I'm not familiar with that software platform, and we don't have a web administrator right now, but I think we might need to move to some other sort of website where that feature would be available.
Do we have anybody who can translate at least the agenda and the minutes?
That's what I was thinking about.
Maybe we could put at the bottom of the agenda, you know, if anybody would like to receive this in Spanish, please notify us.
Yeah.
And that way they know that, one, we can kind of gauge the interest.
Yeah.
And two, it wouldn't happen each month. It would just be a regular place on the agenda that says, if you would prefer to get this in Spanish, please notify us.
I think that's a great idea, Lucy. And then if we receive many, then it means that we need to have it translated off
That's
the
right.
bat.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's a lot of work. I mean, to translate, I was going to offer maybe Aline and I can do it. We're the only two. Do you speak?
Yeah. I could translate it, but when you do a literal translation, Google it and then do some minor corrections, it's like 80% passing. But to do a decent translation, even for an agenda, it's a lot of work. It's I would say over an hour. But once you get all the terminology down, it'll take less time. But the first time,
But if we had
a couple hours.
if we had the same phrase at the bottom of the agenda in Spanish, so it would never change. You know, it's just that people would contact us if they need it in Spanish.
Yeah, we could do that.
Let's do what Mary says, and then Alina, you and I can do it together. If somebody needs it, we can do it together. I think the two of us, one dictates, one writes. I think we can get it done easy. But let's do it that way. We're gonna author it, and we will do it if it's requested. And if we get many requests, then we're gonna have to do it.
I like that. Great idea, Mary Lucy. Just put it at the bottom.
Yeah. Okay, so we need a motion? I
don't think we need a motion on that. It's just something I could add. I would suggest putting it at the top though, so people don't have to scroll down to get that information if they're looking for Spanish.
I like that too because, I like that too, Councilmember Repolgo. I like that because they see it all in English and they'll just think it's all in English.
And it should be in Spanish. Si usted necesita este documento en español, por favor nos avise. Right?
Right.
Mary, do you speak Spanish?
Not much.
Not much.
I understand it more than I speak it.
Okay,
Okay.
so we got,
Do we want
You're-
to take public comment on that?
Any public comment on the Spanish speaking, accessibility to Spanish speakers?
So also Mr. Varney was muted, so if he would like to unmute if he has anything to say on this.
Councilmember Varney, do you have anything to add?
Unmute yourself.
I'm asking you to unmute.
There you are.
There we go. Okay, thank you. I think it's a good start. I think it's a good start.
Good. Right. It's a good start. We open that can. That's all we can do.
So do we have any public comment?
I don't see anybody. Ms. Tacker, do you have any comments?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I guess not. No public comment.
Okay, next on our list is the letterhead for the advisory council. We had a particular council member wanted to send a letter and we could not find a letterhead. So I contacted OCSD to have them search through their whole computer stuff there and nothing was there. So we thought we would place it appropriately on our agenda to have a letterhead.
Yeah. Well, it came up that we approved that letter to ask the county that we do a survey of the alleys so that we find out who owns them, who is responsible and liable to keep them clean and safe. But then I didn't know what to do with it. I thought, do we send it to people? Do we send it to the county, to the Compton, and am I just to send it as Lucia Salinovo member? Maybe if I sent it on a letterhead, it would be more credible. So, yes.
Does anybody else want to weigh on us having a letterhead?
President
Cynthia's
Villa?
hand up.
President Villa? Chair Villa, sorry.
For some reason, I'm not seeing some people.
Probably on the next screen.
No, I see. Okay, I
Uh,
see. Okay, does anybody?
So I think in the past, we've just had the name and, Oceano Advisory Council, the address, the website, just at the top of the letter. In terms of letterhead, we don't have a logo or anything, and if anybody has these skills, let me know, but I don't know that we have anybody who's a graphic designer who could create a logo to have some more official looking letterhead. So my suggestion would be to just print that basic contact information at the top of the letter. And then it's usual for the chair to sign letters that go out from the council.
Okay.
Okay, so have it be just like on our agenda, just like in bold black letters, just like our agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
you could do that. Format it however you like, but until we get somebody who can design a cool logo for the council.
Maybe we should ask Bonnie. Bonnie is a resident of Oceano and she's a videographer and a web. I mean, she is awesome. We can ask her to make us a nice logo. We are an important little body here.
I suggest it's a logo that includes the highly vegetated dunes
Oh, now he's already
with
thinking
least
about-
turns and snowy plovers
Yes.
all over it.
Okay. You're already thinking about the design. Okay. So I'll ask Bonnie to make a logo for Oceano for us. That's a great idea. In the meantime, we're just going to use the same old info. Okay.
Yeah, maybe she could create like two logos, or we could vote on which one we think is
Oh my
more
God, are you
representative.
making it complicated now? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay, so I'll ask Bonnie.
and if not, we'll default to the one what Cynthia said, just the regular contact like on our agenda for the meantime. Do we have any public comment on the item?
I am not seeing any raised hands.
Okay, so being no public comment, we'll go on to the next item, reconsideration of the ODSBRA and COVID letter.
Yes, this last time forgive me, I felt a bit cheated. I didn't feel like my letter didn't even get emotion. So some they were missing, even though we did have a quorum and we could have voted one way or the other, but many members were missing. So I asked that we reconsider it. Now we're all here. We even have our new member. So if, but April is not acquainted with this letter. So I will quickly read it. How do you feel about that?
I'm very acquainted with all.
Letter.
Go ahead, Councilmember Rupogo.
I don't think it's typical to bring back an item that was already considered at a previous meeting when nothing's changed. And on this particular item, I would say that in view of the circumstances, it might be more timely to consider it later in the year, because right now we know that the park is going to remain closed to vehicles through the end of September. So, sorry, there's a little flying here. It might be more appropriate if the council desires to reconsider a revised letter towards the end of summer, given the circumstances at that time, if there's any chance that the park might reopen, if we're at a point in the pandemic when that's something that could possibly happen, rather than reconsidering it now.
Does anybody else have any comments?
Well, I do have a concern here, is that this committee, under the mission statement, is put together to discuss building and planning for a 2-mile area considered the Oceano area. And so when I'm not in favor or opposed to the beach, it has nothing to do with that. The only thing that has to do with is that's state property, right? And it doesn't have anything to do with building and planning within the sphere of influence in Oceano. So it's like stepping out of our lane. This isn't our lane. Our lane is to look at how the building and the planning for our area is, not state parks and recs. So I know everybody's gonna jump up and down about it, right? But if you go back to what we are and our mission statement, it clearly defines building and planning.
Thank you, Councilmember Lucy. Councilmember Warney, would you like to add something?
Excuse me, Madam Chair,
Yeah,
if I might.
hand up, I think.
I would like to make a motion that we table this indefinitely and perhaps take it up later in the year without getting into a discussion of the item at this time.
I'll second
I
that.
think that's a great idea.
So that was moved in second. Let's do a vote on it. Aye.
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 Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Great idea.
Okay, that brings us to old business and public comment on this item. I laugh because I always forget the public comment.
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, that brings us to the old business, and the first item is website administrator. It's still vacant. We're still looking for someone.
Yes, so Jen and Becca, before Becca moved away, helped me to get the website set up. So it's pulling in information from Google Docs on our agendas and minutes and the current membership. So those are the things that tend to change the most. But for now, the rest of it is just static because we don't have anybody to do website administration. So please keep an eye out, keep an ear out for anybody who might be available to do that for us, because we definitely could use it. The whole website looks out of date, and you know, as I mentioned before, we don't have the capability to machine translate to Spanish. So just keep carrying this until hopefully somebody steps up. Now I think Chair Via muted herself again, so I'm going to unmute her.
Something happened.
No, I unmuted you.
Okay. It seemed like it was dying or something. I don't know if everyone else saw that, but anyways, so yeah, keep an eye out for that. And does anyone want to add any comments to that? No comments, no questions. Public comment?
None, none.
None. Being we have none, let's go on to the next. Did I hear something?
Yeah, I just said I don't see anyone with their hand raised.
Okay. Being there's no public comment, we'll go on to the next item, and that will be recruiting members. And we did recruit April.
Lucky you.
I know, lucky you guys. We shall see.
So is somebody going to give a COVID update?
I don't have it.
I do. They
Oh,
added
That's not on the agenda.
Yeah.
Unless the chair would like an update.
I'm having trouble listening or hearing, understanding whoever's trying to speak. I think it's Mary Lucy.
Who is? I don't know. I'm lost. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, we're at item recruiting members. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. And I believe Mr. Varney had his hand raised.
Okay,
I was gonna say,
Councilmember Varney?
I don't need a report on COVID-19. I know, I mean, I know what's going on. I don't understand what its relevance is for right now. It's not on the agenda. I'd like to move along.
I'm getting a little confused. People are cutting out, in and out, and we were talking about recruiting members, and then I heard laughing. We need to be careful and respectful because people can hear when you laugh and things like that. But why are we talking about COVID-19? I'm confused.
Oh, I made an off-the-cuff remark, and I think it was taken serious. My apology.
Oh,
Okay. I hear Mary Lucy, I believe, is apologizing, but she's coming. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm hearing her in and out. So it's kind of echoey. I can't really hear her.
I think she just left the meeting.
Okay. So her computer must have died or something. I don't know. I had a difficult time. Hopefully she's not upset because I could not hear her well. So she was mentioning COVID.
Okay, let's go on. What's on the agenda right now?
Recruiting members.
Well, we recruited April.
I think right
Yes.
now we're at capacity for at-large members, but we do have room for organizational and special members. Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we just need to keep that in mind and work on that. See if we can gain a couple more people, right?
Mhm.
Okay, any public comment on this? No public comment?
The April has muted herself. I will unmute her. And I don't see anyone with their hands raised.
I unmuted so my mirth didn't come through on the microphone.
Okay.
I have nothing to add.
Okay.
Okay, being there's nothing to add, no public comment, we'll go on to the next item. And that would be, I guess, switching banks to CESLOC. We did that already. I don't know if you forgot to take that off, Cynthia?
I think it's all finished, right, Charles?
Yeah, the switch is done.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have the checks.
Yeah.
So any public comment on that? It's all complete.
No hands are raised.
Okay, next item then is downsizing of the PO box.
Okay, now this is a really big issue. We're gonna have to take some time with this. So the post office box is paid through probably the next 4.5 months or so. I renewed it for 6 months, and and this is the yearly fee of about $130. And if we get a smaller post office box, we can save about $60. And if it's the wish of the council to have a smaller box, which I think will accommodate our needs, the next time it's up, I will make that switch. A fiscal impact of that is that we will probably have a different post office box number. That will entail changing the post office box on all of our correspondence, all of our brochures, all of our letterheads, etc. So we can kick this can down the road for another few months, but that's basically the situation. Other than when I paid the post office, they did not cash the check for quite a while. And then when they went to cash it, we no longer had checks in that bank. So we were sent to a collection agency, the Oceano Advisory Council, by the United States Post Office. And I told them that talk to Aline Villa if anybody was going to do hard time at Lompoc Penitentiary on this. She's the president of the council. So Aline, sorry, but so I just I was thinking about trying to fight this, go to the post office and say, hey, you guys didn't cash this check in a timely manner, and you sent it to a collection agency, and they're charging us $30 and blah, 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 blah. And I just figured that was like a rabbit hole that I did not have time or desire to do. So unfortunately, we lost $30 on that. So it's even a little more expensive over these 6 months. But it's, I will, when it comes due again, I will bring this back to you, and the consequences aren't great, but it will be changing some stuff around because we've got a big box now and we want a small one. So it'll be a different number.
Cynthia wanted
That's the report. Any questions? Yeah, Cynthia?
Well, in the interest of time, my experience when I was checking the boxes that there's usually not much in there. So I would recommend that we go down to a smaller box, and I would, instead of bringing this back in the future, I would move right now that we agree to switch to a smaller box when this, well, even now, if we could do it and maybe get a credit for what we've paid for the bigger box, they might do that. But I move that we downsize the box.
Good. I second it. Let's do it. Alina, you're mute.
I'll unmute her again.
Ay, 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 ay.
It seems like it tries to take me out of the meeting and then it brings me up again. And when it brings me up, I'm muted. I don't understand, but.
That is an evil spirit. So I just motioned.
Okay, let's vote on this.
no.
Yeah, time for the vote.
Yeah, for the vote.
Vote.
Aye.
Yeah, aye.
Aye.
I don't hear
Sure,
anybody
yeah.
else, but okay.
Okay.
So that
Passes, and Charles, check into whether we can downsize now. Maybe we could recoup that $30 by getting a smaller
Yeah.
box sooner.
Yeah. I'll check it.
any public comment on this?
I don't see any raised hands.
Okay, next on let's go down on the agenda here, cannabis tax income on Oceano.
That's something that Becca Venturini was looking into. I don't know if anybody else is following up on that, if we should keep carrying it.
I think it's something that we should look into that's interesting and very beneficial to Oceano. We keep on getting cannabis permits, cannabis increasing of whatever place that they're at. There was one I forwarded to you guys today where the cannabis location is on the pike, and there's some industrial buildings there, and they're going from they're adding 9 more vehicles.
Yeah.
A total of 11 vehicles. So it must be a very successful business. And then, yeah, so I guess will bring a lot of income to Oceano, but it just seems like that's the main thing. The main business is, do we want to become cannabis town?
Well,
People can.
Yes, Councilmember Vogel?
the taxes go to the county. They don't go to Oceano. And
We don't get
no, it just
We
goes
don't
into the
get-
county, their general fund or something, just like all of the other taxes that are collected in Oceano don't go directly to Oceano. They come back in the form of some services that we get here, like the sheriff, but we don't see that money directly. So this is something that Becca Venturini was looking into, and I think it's probably a dead end because the county's not going to earmark money for this town that way.
No.
But what this really needs is either somebody to take that up and keep looking into it, or it needs to drop off the agenda at this point, I think.
I mean, if we find out how much, at least we know how much, right? Wouldn't it? That would probably upset us even more.
What I would like to know is what's making more money, the storefront or just the dispensary? What makes more money for the county and ultimately for us? Why
We
is
all
over-
need the sewer.
Huh?
We all need the sewer. Not all of us need medical marijuana or recreational marijuana. So they're very different sources of income and uses.
So, but why is Grover Beach getting all the storefronts and we're getting all just the dispensaries? That's what I wonder.
Because they're a city.
Oh, because they're a city. Mm-hmm.
Cynthia has her hand up.
Yes, Councilmember Vogel?
When
Yes.
Karen White used to come to these meetings when they were in person, she said that the history of that is that a few Oceano residents went before the Board of Supervisors some years ago and said Oceano doesn't want storefront cannabis businesses. And based on that, there haven't been any cited here. And the council discussion at that time was, well, maybe we need to revisit that. That might not be the feeling of the town now. But that is the reason why we don't have any at this point. It was a small group of local residents standing up and saying to the supervisor,
Really?
"I don't want it."
Would the storefront to make more money than the dispensary?
I don't know.
Charles?
Yeah, I mean, a delivery service can make, you know, a whole lot of money. And they pay the cannabis tax and it goes to the county. And this is sort of like the transient occupancy tax that the vacation rentals pay. That money goes into the county. I mean, there's the formula, you know.
Right.
And given that the county has a $multi-million deficit, I doubt that they're going to be turning this of any source of income and kicking it back to us. So
Something
I would
happened.
say we have more important things to do on this one than looking to recoup
Okay.
tax monies from the county at this point in time.
Anybody else want to add anything?
No.
No.
Okay. Any public comment?
I don't see any hands raised.
Being there's no public comment, we'll go on to the next item, the ODSVRA Coastal Commission updates and action items. Charles?
I'll give a little update. I mean, I think you all know that the Coastal Commission issued a cease and desist order to the state parks to stop their harassing of the endangered species living there that have moved into the off-road vehicle area, and shut down any ORV activity south of mile 3 until the nesting season is over at the end of September. I don't know what the state parks would look like, or what the ODSVRA would look like if it was opened up to activity north of mile marker 3. It would certainly be a very limited huge limitation on the number of people that could be in there. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how that plays out. And on a more kind of this report today, or the last few days, State Parks has now shut down access to the South Beach past mile marker. I think it's marker 3. It might be even closer.
Really?
Yeah,
I think it's
absolutely. It's marked no trespassing. No entrar. I mean, they got it bilingual, and you cannot go south, even if you're walking right along in the wet sand.
Really?
So my concern is that they want to keep people out so that we can't witness their continued violation of the cease and desist orders.
That is exactly what I thought too.
And I brought it up to some of the army of like 15 pickup truck riding biologists that are out there looking through spotting scopes at the birds and checking out their iPhones all day. And they say this is all for protection of the endangered species. So I wrote a note to the Coastal Commission just reporting this, saying that I thought we had access to the beaches is a very high priority, and we are being shut out at this point.
Right. You're right. We should be able to walk on the
Okay.
wet sand. Excuse me. We should.
Councilmember Novo,
Sorry.
you can speak now.
Forgive me.
No problem.
Yes, we should have access on the wet sand. I totally agree with you. I'm shocked. I thought it was only milepost Last time I was there a few days ago, it was milepost 5. The first sign says that you can walk on the wet sand. The second one says that no access whatsoever. So now you're saying that has changed, Charles.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna go check it out tomorrow. I agree with you. We should be able to access the wet sand, at least until what the plover exposure was. I think maybe they're retaliating against us. They don't let us, or maybe they just want to keep it secret. Yeah, I don't know. What should we do?
Well, I think complaining about it is a good thing
Yeah,
as individuals.
I'll write also to the Coastal Commission. Yeah, I will write.
Does anybody want to add anything else? Councilmember
No.
Lucy,
I am.
April, Councilmember.
No,
Council-
thank you.
Councilmember Lucy left the meeting about 20 minutes ago and she hasn't come back.
Okay.
A quick footnote on the Pismo clams. You may have noticed as you're walking the beach that there are large numbers of small Pismo clams that
Yes.
are acting very unnatural. They're just laying up on the surface, up at the high water mark. And I think what's happening is that they have demonic poisoning. But there are no health advisories posted anywhere. And I have seen people clamming during the big low tides we had about a week and a half ago. And that shellfish poisoning is highly dangerous. So I wrote a letter to an email to the Department of Fish and Game, asking them to investigate that and offered to get samples for them to test for demonic shellfish poisoning, which is in place from Humboldt County to Monterey County, but doesn't say anything about San Luis Obispo.
So I've seen them, dozens of them, but I thought it was because without cars, now they're all coming back and they don't get crashed.
No, they're sick. They're sick.
Oh,
Okay, so that was just, I wanted to share that information with you.
Wow.
thank you, Charles. Anybody else? Okay. Do we have any public comment on this item?
No hands are raised.
Okay, being no public comment, next on our list here is Curb Gutter Sidewalk Committee.
Say it
Do we
again.
have one?
Say it
Curb
again.
Gutter Sidewalk Committee.
Uh,
Councilmember
Rita?
Pogo?
The council voted some time ago to form a curb gutter and sidewalk committee to look at how we might change Oceano's very strict ordinance of when property owners are required to put those in, which the council discussed as possibly depressed people making improvements on their property and businesses coming in just because of the expense. And the committee would look at possibly cheaper alternatives to the standard curb gutter and sidewalks and revising that ordinance. However, we have not had anyone willing to step up and be on the curb gutter and sidewalk committee. And this could be open not just to council members, but to other community members as well. But we need to advertise it to do that.
Any further discussion? Anybody else want to comment?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Does anybody want to be on this committee?
No, thank you.
Not at this time.
Right.
I'd like to do more research. I literally am still wet from being born into this group.
Good.
Yeah, I think some of us are a little burnt out on trying to get sidewalks and stuff for our community.
Yep.
Agreed.
It seems every time we get all excited, something bursts our bubble. Okay, is there any public comment on this?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, next on our agenda is vacation rental density restrictions for Oceano.
This was an item that I have brought up at various times out of both self and community interest. The vacation rentals continue to expand, and we have, and other communities, especially coastal communities, actually, and inland communities are much more active on this issue than we are, and that's that's not a blaming statement, and are enacting restrictions and limitations, and the county has, the Board of Supervisors have been discussing this, and some new things are in the works that I think that once those, and the issues that we have raised here are the same issues that are being raised every place. And I think there will be some new ordinances coming in, and we will be able to comment on those publicly and hopefully ride on those coattails. I know that right now I don't have the capacity to provide any really leadership in this, on this topic right now.
Does anybody else want to comment?
No.
No, thank you.
Councilmember April, I don't see you on my screen, so you're on the
I
phone.
said no, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any public comment on this?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, being there's no public comment, we'll go on to the next item, local accessory dwelling unit ordinance here for Oceano.
Um,
I'm not sure what that is now.
Oh, yeah, well, so I got the accessory dwelling unit ordinance is the one that allows, you know, what used to be called the granny units, you know, to be built with on parcels that have a certain minimum size, and it's much more lenient now, and this was to some degree kind of associated with the issue of the problem of the requirement of curbs, gutters, and sidewalks for people doing improvements to their property, and how much would that be a limitation for people putting ADUs on their properties here in Oceano. And that's basically the background for it, why it's there. There hasn't been really much progress, I think, in terms of going much further beyond that.
Oh,
And it isn't,
yeah,
we
I
don't
can't
have any
really.
local, it's not a local ordinance, it's a county ordinance and a state mandate. So I think that's it. There's no other comments.
I
Almost
think we may have lost Chair Via. I don't see the mic. Oh, there she is. Her microphone icon went away. Now it's back, and I'm asking her to
She's
unmute.
blocked. She's muted. She's still muted.
Yeah, I'm asking her to unmute. There she
Okay,
is.
I'm
We
back.
lost you.
Yeah, I think it's my internet connection. Maybe there's a lot of like people using it and I get like disconnected and brought back in.
Yeah.
Because it's been doing that on and never had that issue before. I don't know. So we were talking about the accessory dwelling unit ordinance, and I couldn't really understand Charles, but it sounded like they're still working on an ordinance that we haven't really
No,
come up?
it's in place now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on
So
the,
is it,
Can we quit? It's 8 o'clock.
I want
yeah, I can't.
I want to give a treasurer's report.
Oh, okay,
It'll be quick.
okay. Then let's do
Okay,
that.
so we have any public comment on the local accessory dwelling unit ordinance?
There are no hands
Being
raised.
none. Do we have any public comment? Did you
No,
say?
there are no hands raised.
Okay. All right, so the next item is treasurer's report. Go ahead, Charles.
Okay. We've successfully moved to Cesslock, and thanks, Cynthia, for your patience in that whole process. It was an interesting experience. I'll just leave it at that. But it's all done now. We have, as of the statement I just got the other day, as of June 30th, we have $1,237.23 in the account. We do have a outstanding payment to, which I haven't been able to, reimbursement to Becca for, she used her credit card to pay for our website server, and we owe her approximately about $155. I'll have that specific. So we'll be paying that, and we have a debit card. So we had another expense in July, which was the Zoom account for OAC. The nice thing about having the debit card is that, can pay those things online. And so basically all of our accounting, since we get, we have the electronic statements, all of that, the accounting for the treasurer is really pretty easy because it's all done at Cesslock, and all the debit charges show up. And so that's good for me. And if there are any questions, but I mean, that's pretty much the extent of the report.
Yeah, where do we get our money?
Lynn Compton, well, the county has a little grant fund that Jennifer was diligent about applying to. That is, it's a little fund that is for supporting advisory councils, but you have to apply to get the money. And this is to help us to pay for the operational expenses that we have, which have, gone up more as everybody's going with Zoom meetings and stuff like that. So, but we have a chunk of money there that'll last us for a while.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Does anybody else have any questions for Charles?
No.
No,
Okay.
thank you.
No, thank you.
Public comment?
There are no hands raised.
Okay. And so then we have Lucia's OBCA report.
Okay, I have nothing to report.
Okay.
Okay. So then that comes to the my report for the OCSD, and I'm going to make it as short as possible. We met and discussed at our last meeting the increasing of the water bill. We discussed the fact that we haven't had a water bill increase in quite a while. It's usual for us to have water bill increase every 5 years, and because of the fact that everything's gone up and the fact that we need to increase our money so that we don't run out of funds in our water fund, we discussed increasing it, and we would have to increase it by 27%. But we decided instead of increasing it all at once, we're only gonna increase it 10%, and then another 10%, and then 13%. So it won't,
Wow.
yeah, it will be 10%, 10% this year only. Okay, don't get scared. It's only 10% this year, but it's gonna, you know, slowly increase. So I guess to soften it up or to help low-income people, we decided as a board to do like a discount for people that live in apartments and multi-housing units. They'll get like a discount of 30% because they don't require as much maintenance as single-family homes. And then there also will be like a little, like if you, we're gonna have tiers, 2 tiers. So if you use less than 6 units, yeah, you won't get charged as much. So there's gonna be some things worked in to where it will help the low income people. Our manager did discuss that in the future, California is gonna enact a low income water credit type of thing, but that's still in the works, but it's gonna happen. Whether it happens in a year or 2, he doesn't know, but it is gonna happen. So we discussed that, and it's the bill that you won't get the
Oh, she seems to have frozen.
Yeah, froze again. Well,
If I could just add to that, the water bill increase is subject to the 218 process. So there will be a public hearing, and if a certain percentage of residents in Oceano file protests, then, oh, now we've lost Aline altogether. But if a certain number of Oceano residents protest against the increase, then it would not go into effect. So there's more information to come on that.
oh,
And
good.
I think she's come back now.
Cynthia,
Yes.
are those monies categorical for the water services
Yes.
budget? Okay.
So this is, you're only allowed to charge for water what it costs to provide the water service. That's a limitation on it. And it's just been the case that because people are still conserving as much as they were during the drought, that over time, the amount of fees charged for providing water service no longer cover the cost of providing it. So that's why there needs to be an increase at this point in the fees charged. But by
I'd like to raise my hand.
splitting it so that the multifamily residents have a lower cost than the single family residents, it is a bit more equitable because, you know, again, we can only charge what the cost of service is, but the cost of providing service to a multifamily dwelling is lower, so that's what justifies it. I have personal concerns because I consider water to be a human right, and I want to make sure that nobody is in a situation where they're having to pay too much for water and, you know, have to cut back on other things. But there are, as Ms. Villa said, there are state programs coming into place soon that will help out lower income residents to be able to pay for water. Right now, the way the law is structured, it's just not possible to offer any sort of lifeline sort of services for lower income residents. That's not permitted by the law, which is kind of bizarre because California does consider water to be a human right. But hopefully these programs from the state will help with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to raise my hand if that's possible.
Go, April.
Okay. My question then is, I understand that the water fund is dedicated to the water expenses, et cetera. My question is, did the board ever take into consideration the percentage that they take of the water fund that they put towards administration? And have they revisited that percentage to see if it's still equitable? Because let's say out of 100% of the water fund, we're taking 60% and putting it towards admin because of overhead. Have we decided that maybe 60% at this point is too much now? Or maybe it should be 70%? Are we getting to the root of the issue financially, or are we just throwing more financial responsibility on the backs of the residents?
Do you want to answer that, Aline, or I can? Oh,
She's muted.
she's gone muted again.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
I do remember him saying that some of the admin was factored into that. I don't recall the exact percentage, but I don't remember it being that much. I thought he said less than 10%. Do you recall, Cynthia?
I don't recall the percentage, but I do remember that the admin costs were recently rebalanced amongst all of the OCSD services to better reflect how much admin time is appropriate to allocate to those, in staff's view.
Okay, that answers my question. I appreciate that.
I have a question. Oh, excuse me.
Well, if you had a question on water, you could go ahead with that. But I just wanted to ask Ms. Villa, wasn't the decision on the 5 Cities Fire Authority and kicking the can down the road and another ballot initiative, I think that was decided by the board since the last OAC meeting as well?
Great question.
So there will be another initiative. There will be another voting.
No.
Do you want to talk about that, Ms.
No.
Villa?
Oh,
Well, I didn't hear Lucia's question. Were you asking about the water or the fire?
no, Cynthia brought up the fire initiative now. So, and that you decided that the OCSD decided that to have another initiative. That's what I understand.
In 2 years. In 2 years. Yeah.
Oh, to try again in 2 years.
Sorry.
The same thing.
Yeah.
The same thing that we now have to pay 2 more years for that we can't afford to then go through this process again in 2 years.
Yes, but it's in 2 years at the same rate that we have had it.
Right.
We didn't increase it, in other words. That was like kind of the compromise. They will keep it as is for another 2 years because of everything because of COVID and everything, and the fact that it, almost passed, but they didn't quite pass.
Okay.
So, any more questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment remaining. It's just us 5 council members.
Okay. Next item is the discussion items for the next agenda, notices, correspondence.
So I have for the next agenda the addition to the rules of decorum for repeated violations that Charles is going to circulate. Charles, you look like you're frozen. Are you still? Okay.
I'm still here. Yeah, I'm still
You
here.
were just sitting really still, but then you.
Yeah, he was. He was. I also thought it was frozen.
I would like to add to that we talk about a time limit on meetings. We're now more than, 2.5 hours, and we're going on 3 hours here now. So I'd like to propose that we put into place something that after a certain amount of time, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, we have a vote on whether we want to continue the meeting or not, because frankly, this is more time than I want to be spending on one of these meetings. I think we're all getting kind of tired. So if the council's
I'd like to
agreeable-
add to that if possible as well.
Yes.
I would like to add that on the agenda, instead of us just speculating and guessing a lot of these items that are on the agenda, that we come to the meeting and that each agenda item has some kind of information attached to it so that we know of what we're voting, of what we're talking about, of what our sphere of influence is to even make a decision. But when we would just talk about the theory and the concept of parking on pier, not to single anything out, but that's what came up tonight, that we don't even know what our availability or scope is. But for the future agenda items, to actually have a point and purposes and listings and information so that we can take the time before the meeting, read about it, do our own, just like any other district or board meeting, learn about the subject on our own, and then come together and take the 15, 20 minutes on each item to discuss it instead of 45 minutes on something we don't even know what we're talking about. That's it.
Okay, I'd like to respond to that. I hear you, April, and I mean, in concept, I agree with you. But remember that those other organizations you're referencing have paid staff that put together reports, do research, and all of that. We don't. We're volunteers.
That's true. I agree.
And I think that, you know, we need to clean up the agenda. We have a lot of cans here that we kick down the road every month. And I think you heard some of that tonight about like, well, you know, maybe we aren't going to be talking about curb gutters and sidewalks anymore and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
I
think maybe then I'd like to modify my comment then, because I do understand what you're saying. That does make absolute sense. That if any one person wants to put an item on the agenda that matters to them or they want addressed, that they provide the group with information to help make a decision. If I just, like this time, I saw an agenda, I have 2 days to learn about something on Pier Street happened. I have no idea. So, and again, not to single out any one, but just that came up. So if I personally had something I wanted on the agenda, or any one of us, it would be our responsibility to provide the information so that people know what we're going to talk about instead of just a blind discussion about 3 words on a sentence on an agenda. That's where I meant by that.
Mm-hmm.
But you back up your own submission with information of why you want it discussed, what the thoughts are on it, so that we can all look into it and then come together with our different ways of looking into things to come to a decision. That's all.
Oh, Elaine keeps getting muted.
She's still muted.
I'm not muting myself, so I don't know what's happening. It's like I'm leaving and then I'm coming back muted.
Oh, my back hurts.
Well,
Anyways,
you can unmute yourself now. So you can just go ahead and.
I did unmute myself. Yes, I did unmute myself. Something like a paragraph or two. I think we can manage that if we want to put something on the agenda, right?
I think that's reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah.
In this case, really, Charles gave a little summary of what he wanted it on the agenda. I think anyway, let's get over it. I think it's a good idea, and let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to mention also, April, that there were some emails, like in particular about the parking thing.
Yeah.
So there was some background that you didn't see.
That you didn't see, right?
Yeah, and that's part of it. So, and then how could the public participate if they don't get to see it either? If I was just the public, I couldn't have responded to anything because you all saw something that even the public didn't get to see.
It's a fair point. I think we could put a little more detail in, and somebody add something to the agenda, have a sentence or two explaining
And I can help with
or
the
links or.
website like you do where you list things and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did have one other possible item for future discussion, which is we've got a bunch of new members, so you might not be aware, but in the past, the OAC has sponsored a candidate forum when there's an election coming up. For instance, in the supervisor race, the OAC sponsored a forum with Jimmy Paulding and Lynn Compton a couple of years ago. So the council might consider whether they want to have a forum, probably over Zoom, for the OCSD candidates. And I'm one of them,
Oh.
so I won't be.
Interesting.
And on that decision, I'm just putting it out there as a suggestion.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'd like to agendize that for the next meeting.
Yes, me too.
Okay, does
Go ahead.
anyone else have anything for future agenda items?
April's saying no.
I can't speak of anything right now.
Well, I mean, we're going to revisit the Pier Avenue parking, right? I mean, that's, we
Mhm.
already agreed to that, so I don't have to bring that up as something that needs to be agendized, right?
I thought we were gonna work that out offline. That was my understanding.
Right, but shouldn't it be agendized for the next meeting?
For
Or
a
make a
resolution.
decision on
Maybe
it?
sorry, maybe I misunderstood, but I thought there were gonna be, emails circulated on, what was gonna be discussed and then it was gonna be put in soon? Or is it something that we need to, that we're gonna
No, we
defer
need
to the next
Well,
meeting?
we're going to circulate. I think we decided that Varney was going to draft a letter. We were going to circulate it, and but eventually, I think we need to come together and talk about it. Yes, I would put it on the agenda.
I agree.
And
Okay,
also charged to get more information,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
so.
okay, I will add that.
Okay. Anything else? Not, any public comment on this last item?
There's
Or
no
public
public,
what?
it's just
Yeah.
us.
There is no public.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. It's
Is
just
it time
us.
to say goodbye?
Have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Adios,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.